welcome. We're really excited. This morning we have it's now up to our 4th installment of the Tecumseh Talk series. We focused on players, we focused on goalkeepers, and now we're really putting an emphasis on coaching development. We're very lucky, with today's guest, and it's obviously been arranged by my other half here at Tecumseh Soccer Club, Pieter Langens. Pieter, I'm not going to take a stab at Peter's last name, so I'm gonna have to pass it over to Pieter Langens, and he'll take it from here. And I just want to say thank you, welcome for joining us this morning, and even I know some of you are joining from work, and I hope everybody's staying safe and staying healthy, and we're really excited about this. So thanks for joining. As long as people keep joining, we'll keep doing these the best we can. So Pieter, take it away. You can go ahead and introduce today's guest.
All right, thanks, Ryan. What Ryan said is right. It's like today we're happy to welcome Pieter Schrassert Bert from the Netherlands. Pieter lives in my hometown, and that's where he started coaching. He will explain a little bit about his playing and coaching career, his role as the Dutch national coach, and also his personal vision about what he's trying to accomplish with his teams and there, right? And I kept Pieter following since he's starting at the club, and then I had the pleasure to work with him for a couple of years when he came to the US to do some camps. Any questions, make sure you put in the chat. Ryan or myself will during the presentation ask questions. Maybe sometimes if something is not clear, I will jump in and maybe help the translation a little bit. Right? It's English is not our first language, so sometimes we're messing it up. Pieter, welcome. Go ahead, my friend.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. As Pieter said, my biggest challenge will be the translation, but I think it will be fine. And thanks for, I think, Tecumseh Soccer Club for having me. And let's say in 1 hour, 1.5 hour, I will guide you during my presentation. Feel free to ask your questions, and if it's necessary, Pieter will help me with the language.
Yep.
Even kijken. Waarom gaat hij nou niet verder? So these parts do we get today, and let's try to who am I in my coaching career to do it a little bit shortly. My role as national coach will take it in about 20 minutes, and my coaching philosophy in about half an hour. So I think we got plenty of time for some question Q&A if there's if it's needed. Okay, who am I? My family diplomas, mission, vision, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I'm a father of 2 kids. I'm married, living in the same city Pieter was born, I say, but was lived for a long time. My background is, let's see, after secondary vocational education, became teacher on the sports academy, graduated in 2002. At that time I was a pro soccer player, and I worked for some fitness. Start after that time as a coordinator in the sports academy, which I did before. I teach UEFA C, UEFA B at that time. This year is the first year I am teacher level 4, which means I teach UEFA A, and if I grow a little bit more, maybe UEFA Pro in the future. So that's my diplomas. My mission vision, I want to be a professional football coach in the future, and an important step will be to graduate my UEFA Pro license. Till that time, maybe a good course for me will be the Master of Coaching, Johan Cruyff. I'm just I believe that how more you know about yourself, the better you can help other in their development. So I just want to grow by myself every day, every moment. My strong points, very positive in coaching and helping. At the same moment, very critical. I want to be the highest as possible in every session with players. Very passionate, ambitious. I think, yeah, pretty good empathic abilities. Yeah, and sometimes I'm a little bit obsessed about develop players, so that's not nice for them. Sometimes a little bit impatient. I want to go on and on. And sometimes too demanding, so I have to look out for that. In the future, I try to get some higher ages at a Dutch National Association. Maybe in the future I will work for one of the biggest clubs in Holland. Is in my area, and I already had some chances to go abroad for some nice jobs, but I believe to improve myself more and get some opportunities in Holland before I make that step to another country. Just a question for Peter. Is it a little bit clear about everything?
Yep.
Okay.
Keep going.
Thank you. So this part will be a little bit faster because I think it's not the most important. To start, I want to give you a little bit inspiration. Michael Jordan, a good basketball player, one of the best basketball players who gives me a lot of inspiration. A fantastic clip I want to share with you. I think a lot of you maybe already saw this clip, but that's no problem. It's all about the message and it's all about the inspiration.
Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I led you to believe it was easy when it wasn't. Maybe I made you think my highlights started at the free throw line and not in the gym. Maybe I made you think that every shot I took was a game winner. That my game was built on flash and not fire. Maybe it's my fault that you didn't see that failure gave me strength, that my pain was my motivation. Maybe I led you to believe that basketball was a God-given gift and not something I worked for every single day of my life. Maybe I destroyed the game. Or maybe you're just making excuses.
Good inspiration for me. I'm now a national coach and I got a pretty good career so far. But a lot of people ask me or tell me you're lucky, etc. But it's years in a lot of work and development, and so I try to inspire everybody who's listening to work hard and achieve your goals to um, to try to get as high as possible with your career and with your ambition. My career, I started at OEC Rosmalen, amateur level club, which I played for from my 6th till 11th, coaching 9 years from U15 till U19. On that time, Midwest Soccer Academy. You see also in the presentation. And that's where Peter Langens, also from OEC Rosmalen, also my boss at Midwest Soccer Academy. And that's also nice. We can work together at this time. When I was 11 years old, I played for
Ik streef er niet naar om groot te zijn, maar nuttig.
Even kijken. I'm sorry. Don't know what's happening. At that time, 11 years old, as a player, I went to PSV, one of the biggest clubs in Holland. I broke my leg, one time double, shin and calf, and one time my upper leg. So at 15 years old, I have to leave PSV and I joined FC Den Bosch, a club in the area. And that's the club I became a pro soccer player. I played for FC Den Bosch a long time. With 17 years old, I played at the first team. Unfortunately, by different circumstances, I have to come to a minimum number of matches. My social career, I worked at that time as a teacher for the Dutch National Association and as a teacher at the sports academy. I graduated by myself. But I want to be a full-time football trainer, coach. And in, I think, 2008, I graduated my UEFA A. And on that moment, I get a chance at Willem II RKC. The year before, I worked for Nijmegen NEC. And at Willem II RKC, I could work full-time. So 2 years at Willem II, 5 years at Sparta, again from the U15s till U19s, and assistant coach as the first team. At that time, Feyenoord Rotterdam in Holland, I think the second biggest club, and 3 big clubs in Holland, PSV, Feyenoord and Ajax. I worked for Feyenoord and I had a chance to be coordinator of the middle ages, U13, U16. It was my responsibility. And on that moment, I had a chance to get my head of academy pro license, and I get that in I think 2018. And last year there was a chance for me to work for the Dutch National Association as a national coach, and that's my career till now. So maybe questions so far?
Nope. Ryan? No.
Feel free.
No, everything's good. There's been a couple, but they're more they're not related to this, so they're at the end. So keep the questions coming. Like I said, if they're pertaining to the topic, we'll have it queued. So just go ahead and send them in the chat, and Peter or I will interject.
So I work with the U15s of the Dutch National Association, and I want to the content, the short-term processes, team-building staff, cooperation club, selection, and scouting. So this is my team. My first matches were in the start of February. I'll tell you later on why. And on that moment, we had to prepare them for a match against Czech. On Monday, we come together. So we had a flight on Monday also, so we could have one session. On Tuesday and Wednesday, we also had a session, so 3 sessions, and then we have to play the match. But the opponent may be almost the same, but only 3 sessions. Also, Ireland and Spain will joining the tournament, and we beat Czech in the first game 4-1, and Ireland and also Spain won both matches. So the final. I want to show you some goals from the final. So after I think 7 days working together, it brought us here. So Spain was the big favorite. They also played 2 games before. They beat the 2 opponents with big numbers, and they told us up front it's going to be very difficult. So it was very nice after I think 1 week working together to destroy Spain in the final. As a club coach, you work every week with your staff and with your players, and as a coach of the national team, I had to meet my staff in January. So I had to plan some individual meetings and also a team meeting to know each other and to the most important thing, to make clear the core values of me and my method and principles, etc., etc. So I had to bring them together in just a short part. And at the end, we were a pretty good team. So that was nice to join that staff at that moment.
Right. Peter, maybe can you explain, because you saw in your staff picture, like you had like 8, a staff of 8. What kind of
roles
that were in your team?
Yeah, so we had a team manager. We got a physio next to him. So the team manager is left at the left side, behind. Physio next to him, the doctor next to him. We got a keeper coach, and we got a video man. And onderaan,
on the bottom.
On the bottom, we got assistant coach. Another assistant coach is not on the picture. He already was gone on this moment of the picture. We got a kid manager, and we have a study coordinator, and that's the stuff for this trip.
Okay.
Now, as a coach of the national team, it's very important, I think, to coordinate your communication with the clubs. So some clubs in Holland want to communicate with head of academy, some with the coordinator, and some just with the coaches. So we first have to coordinate that. And together with the clubs, we make clear which players are interesting for the national team. So the club will say, recommend some players, and we have plenty of time to scout them and see them if those are the right players for our way of playing or the good qualities. So we try to visit clubs at the start of the season, sometimes for a few days. So at Ajax, I joined a few days because at Ajax, mostly you got this the biggest youth academy in Holland. I think 12 million a year to the youth academy. So they got really the best players. So mostly you got between 6 or 10 players from Ajax. So I was 3 days at Ajax to know each other, know the players, and make a good base to work together. So and all the interesting clubs, we try to visit them and make a good connection. We try to keep in touch weekly with an open and we try optimal communication. And it's very the most difficult of all is there's almost no contact with my players, and the clubs owning the players. So what difficult is if I want to play with players between the lines, and in the club they say no, he has to play outside wing or whatever. We don't want that discussion. So we can't not communicate about the way of playing with the players. We can communicate with the players about how they feel and just general things, but not about the way of playing. That's a difficult part. So that makes when the players come in January, February, and we have to play our first national team game. We don't even know at the start of the week how we're gonna play, what we're gonna do, etc. So that makes it really hard for me as a coach. Maybe some questions now?
Nope.
Okay. Now the vision of the Dutch National Association is that at the U15 we start with the national games, and at that moment we say at the end of the year. So that makes not in August at the start of the season, but in January or February, we got the first games. And next year we made the choice, no, we're going to play the first in March. And that makes, because in that age, we cannot say which players are interesting for 6 years ahead. So I just go on. So that makes, this is a picture from a few years ago from the national teams, and that makes a big number of players even were at the U15s at that moment. A few players were, and the upper players, Blind, Strootman, Wijnaldum, Depay, that were the players who already played nationals in the U15s. And another players were only on the standby list. Some were playing the futures, I'm gonna explain later, but most of the players didn't play U15's national team. And that makes the vision of the Dutch Nationals Association say, let's start with the national team games later on with an older age, not anymore U14s in the past. And on this moment, U15 January, but we try to do it as late as possible. The futures are the players who are younger biological age. And they are behind in development, growth, physical, mentally. They are younger and not on the calendar, but with their physical abilities. So we also got a future team. And you see during the years, the same numbers about the future teams, the little ones are getting into the big national team later on. So that future team is also an interesting team for us to develop. What do you think, Peter?
What are the names of the players of the futures?
Jasper Sillissen,
who plays for Valencia right now and is the Dutch national team goalie.
Yeah, it's Adam Maher. I see. Juri Klaasie. Still the little ones, but on this moment we got new examples of futures playing in the national team. On that moment, these players were playing over there. And I told you all a little bit about the scouting. So I think let's go to the most interesting part, I think, about the philosophy. What I try to do is the content about, okay, how you gonna de omgang met spelers and stuff.
Yeah, the directing, and the guidance of the players and the staff, right? Is how, what his role is, what he sees is important for himself towards to the players and to his other staff members.
Yeah. And I take you from the starting point. Simplifying football is an interesting part, I think. I will talk about with you with some principles, or just a structure, and talk about and ask you some questions about that, and about some team development and individual development. How can you bring that together? To start with the directing guidance of players. What I try to do is to get the goals together and try to make the players responsible for their own process. And I think if the players are responsible, the chance my team is gonna win and perform great will be bigger. But also for them, they create they create new chances for themselves. So I try to create mutual dependence. And during the years, I think I grow, and it's one of my qualities. I think I dare to be unpopular, because I believe players really appreciate honesty and clarity. Even I know on that moment it's really hard. So just give the message. Just tell them. Be honest. And during the years, players say, "Hey, coach, it was hard, but you were fair and honest," and that's what we appreciate. I'm a coach also who believes in develop strong qualities instead of weaknesses. I think it's more fun, and I want to create special specialiteiten. Really good strengths of a player. And I think it's boring to work only on your weaknesses. So a really fast player who got problems with his skills between the lines, don't bring him every day between the lines and in his skills, etc., because he think it's boring, it's hard, and he has to work on it. Yes. Yes, he has to work on it, but if you can work with him on making runs, better runs, the better moments, better direction, better afstemming,
relationships between the players.
Yeah, there's a better relationship between them. He will accelerate. He will playing better. So work on the better skills of a player, and sometimes tell that fast player, please, friend, work on your skills also. I think that's the good vibe. Individual customize. Each player has its own personality, and you have to approach it differently, I think. So I believe that you have to provide maximum customization to get most out of every player. So yeah, you know, every player is different, and one player want a lot of attention, and some players just want a little bit eye contact, and he know enough. So try to make it individual. And I also believe, tell them the why. Why are you doing things? Because if they know you think about it, and if you know. If the player know why he's working on some things, and why he's working on his better runs and etc., and why you don't put time on his skills, that will give him confidence, and he knows why you doing things. And I think Simon Sinek wrote a book about it. The Why Cafe, I think in America it's called like that. But I believe in that also. I believe in a lot of positivity and empathy. So ask the player, how is it? And mostly they it's fine. But that's what you see, and that's what he tells. But do you know more about your players? And do you, I believe, really in love for your players? Just put a lot of time in them. They give you back. They give you a lot back. So that about my directing and guidance of players, and also staff, because they have to work also for you, and they have to also um, um, tell your story. I got a story about how I want to work with players, and they have to confirm on that. So also, according to your staff, also a lot of individual time, etc., etc. Every term in here. So maybe questions so far between?
No.
Okay. Yeah, the starting point. So you're working for a club mostly, or for the Dutch National Association right now, but that club also got a mission, vision, targets, and there are some core values or a kind of identity for teams or players. There are documents from that club, and in my philosophy, you have to know that. You have to confirm on that. So if you want to work on that club, you have to know what the mission, vision, targets, core values, what they are. Because if you want to play defensive football and that club in their mission or vision, or they want only play offensive football, then you got a problem. So I think you have to know that up front. And at the Dutch National Association, we got some core values that we use. And in the U15s, they come in for the first time. So we don't overkill them in information. So what we don't want to do is put all that information on one moment, and we only got a few days. What we try to do is to pick a few, and we chose team, winning, and proud, and let the player think about those core values. What I did this year is, okay, what does they mean? What do they mean for you? So if you think about team, just let me zoom for team. Okay, if you think about team, they told each other it's important, if we think about team, to help each other, to have fun, to correct each other, and to have a good performance. That was what they thought about the core value team. And what I don't want to do is tell them up front, okay, these are the rules. So at the start, we had no rule. The only thing we did is, one of the first meetings is we did this, and they create their own surroundings. So they made an agreement with each other to help each other, to have fun with each other, to have a good performance, and to correct each other's, and so also for winning and for proud. So that makes, if there's something happening in Spain, there was happening something, we take this picture and we said, okay, what do you say to each other? What did we have agreed with each other? And how is it possible that this happened? And from that, we got a conversation, and we make further arrangements. So we get stronger. So they create their own surroundings to have the best performance we got. Is that clear, you think, Peter?
Yep.
Okay. So the starting point for me now were those core values, and that was the base for working in Spain. To simplify soccer, football, in the process of simplify football, I believe always the game is leading, and I think a lot of us think the game is leading, but if you're gonna simplify, or you're gonna start with a practice, a preparation for your practice, I always start with the end scrimmage, because it's in my head close to that game. Okay, in the game there are some skills. For example, I'll give you an example later on. Our strikers, we have to work on, if we lose the ball, they have work together. They have to act directly. They have to give energy directly. And if we want to do that, in the end scrimmage, I want them to do that. And if I start at the start of the session, it's not logical for me in that process. And if I teaching, if in my work as a teacher, I always simplify football from the game. So start at the end point. So for me, start your preparation for a training also at the end of the session. Do 9v9 scrimmage, depends on how many players you got, etc., what your goal is. But start at the end of the session and simplify it to the start of your session. That means that your starting point maybe closer to the game is than when you start your preparation for your session at the beginning. When then you make choices maybe further from that 11v11. I'm gonna show that right now. Let me see. So this is one of the clubs, Feyenoord in Holland, and the 3 strikers. We lose the ball, and directly they have to give some energy and work together. And you see all midfielders have to work together behind those 3. Again, now on the midfield, they lose the ball.
Daar heb ik geen antwoord op. Kan ik je ergens anders mee helpen?
They lose the ball and they have to act directly. You see the strikers, he's reacting much too late. So you see, otherwise he had to win the ball and maybe we get a chance. So let me see.
Oké, dit heb ik gevonden.
Weet niet hoe ik die uit moet zetten. So this is the end. If I would prepare a session, I would first say, okay, I want to develop those of that function, that part of the game, those 3 strikers and midfielders when we lose the ball. So I would start with the preparation for my session with the end game, and the end game will be this game. Just an 11v11 or a 9v9 or 8v8 or 10v10, which let me see, probably we lose somewhere the ball. Okay, we lose it. Okay, we have to react. We have to give energy, etc. So at the end, we have to work in that session till this moment. On that moment, we have to give more. Again, the other team is now totally open on the midfield, totally free, and they, with a good square pass, is that a steek pass, Peter? Square pass?
Through ball.
Through ball, with a good through ball, they got a chance. So the strikers have to do that much better. The next step in simplify football, so not at the end of the session, but the part before, will be a simplify, and in the right side of the pitch you see 2 players who come with pressure in the back, so to force that they're gonna lose the ball. On this moment you see 2 players, so we force them to act, and you see on that moment the chance is bigger we lose the ball. So we create a rule that we force. Otherwise, he played the ball back, and he played the ball back, and they got with a lot of time searching for a chance. And I want to force them to create chances, but lose the ball so we can train the part we want. So you see, they have to work, they have to give energy, they have to come together, they have to make choices, and on this moment they did it pretty well, and have to work together, but not good cooperation. So you see, with 2-3 passes, we're gone. So we have to work on that more. And on that moment, if you go back to this screen, you see it's, I think, 6 against 6, 5 against 6 against 7, I think. If you simplify it more, the next step, in my vision, you lose the reality of the game. So if you simplify it more, with a 4 against 4, in my vision, and it's not the truth, but players don't make the connection with the game anymore. It's going to be small-sided games. So I believe in exercises at the beginning of the training, or before this game, with a lot of energy, chaos, playing for profit, implicit learning, with a lot of challenges. And I'm going to show you some exercises with this. This is one of my favorite exercises. What you're going to see is 3 against 2. And on the moment a player is trying to score or scored, he has to run around that cone. And you see a lot of energy, really nice exercise, because they can score all the time. So he passed the ball out of the square, he has to run. Now you see it from above, against 3 against 2, with a pass, and try to score. 3 new ones, 3 against 2, with some pressure from behind. And so nice exercises, a lot of energy, a lot of chaos, a lot of scoring, a lot of celebrating and goals against you. But on that moment, your role as coach is very important, because it's going to be a game with a lot of fun. We just play, or we already can make the connection with the exercises behind. So we know those offensive players has to react when they lose the ball. Now I'm using the wrong button. On this moment, you see, okay, he's gonna score right now, and they have to react. One around the cone. That's not in the game, but the others has to work together. They got a lot of energy. And another goal, yes, run, energy, act directly. And what I try to do as a coach on that moment is to make the connection already of the exercises behind. So that makes the start of the session small-sided games with a lot of fun, with a lot of intensity, with a lot of energy, with a lot of celebrating, but already immediately the connection with the goal of your session. And in the Simplify of Soccer before, and that's in my part, if you train 90 minutes, 20, with some time between, we got one exercise to go up front of the session. And you can say, okay, let's do some running, some fitness, but you lose too much time, and you don't have much time with your players. So what I believe is small-sided games, and for example 4 against 2, but with the accent, with the goal or accent which is coming back later on in that session. So in this, for example, in this 4 against 2, but every time those 2 get the ball out of the square, 2 new strikers has to bring the ball out of the square, and they have to work together at that moment and give them a lot of energy. So I try to make that connection already. And again, your role as coach, we can make this fun, but the players don't make that connection. So your goal as coach on this moment, try to explain the players, and I told before, why we do this exercise and why we integrate these rules to create this energy or intensity. And what you see on the right side are the yellows. The yellow players are playing possession, and the yellows are at the left side, the defenders, and at the left side the green team play possession, and on the right side the green team are the defenders. So that means we start the session. In a few minutes they can pass the ball and make a run around, and after that directly 2 teams, offensive players and defensive players, and they're gonna play a scrimmage in this way. So which team with these rules make sure the ball is out of the square as much as possible. Let's see. and you try to make that connection for that player, the better. And you see those 2 defending players are my offensive players or the midfielders, and they have to act directly. They have to give energy directly if they have the ball, if they bring out the ball, etc.
Dat is niet aardig.
And after it, if it's done, you can change the defender and the offensive players. You can play 3 against 1 with 1 defender. You can change the rules, but the goal of the session, your goal of the whole session makes the rules in this exercise. So if you want to create something in this exercise, the goal of the session makes the rules. Is that clear, Peter, you think? Okay. Questions so far?
Are you done with this section or not? Because there's an overall question.
Yeah, almost.
Okay, keep
almost.
going.
Yeah. Yeah, for simplify of football, yes, I'm done. Peter,
Right, there's one question, and let me see if we can. Jeff, you're still.
No, Jeff literally just stepped out to a meeting, so I'll actually ask it.
Right, we will ask the question on the end then.
Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. I just heard Peter about principles in America also. What did you say?
We're in Canada here.
Oh, Canada. Okay. Around Canada, around America, let's say that like that. And that's an interesting part, because a few years ago, everybody want to play from a team organization, and a kind of structure. And now principles are coming up, and now everybody say, okay, no team organization. We're playing from some principles. And my vision is that I give players a kind of structure with a team organization and some few agreements in this. So, for example, maybe it's nice to get this one. So, for example, oh, wrong one. I'm sorry. For example, I want to build up from the back with 3 players, but I want to bring players in their strength. So that means that my center Ds are 2, but my outside defenders, I don't want them in my first part of the building up. So they're playing a little bit higher. That makes one midfielder is dropping back. So that makes the 3rd building up player. That's a structure within my team organization, which we play 1-4-3-3 with 2 defensive midfielders and 1 offensive player. That's the structure. But the appointments I make in that will be 1 midfielder drop back and the outside defenders go high, and I only want 1 player on the sides. So that means 2 wing players of the 2 outside offensive players are playing between the lines. That's how we play. That's a kind of structure I want to give them with them. But within that structure are some principles which we say, okay, I got principle for myself as a coach, and I want to integrate that in that way of playing. So that means a principle could be force the opponent in choices. So that means if we drop 1 midfielder back, it's important for me, what is the opponent gonna do on that? Is the midfielder going with him, or is he communicate with that offensive player who also has to make a choice? Is he gonna defend forward, or is he dropping back with that outside defender who's playing a little bit higher? And I want to force them in choices. So on that moment, I try to bring that together. And the question for you is, what is your starting point? Where do you want to start? What type of club you work for, or what type of coach you are? Are there principles which are leading and you try to give some structure between it, or are you working from a kind of team organization and some appointments within that, and you bring some principles in that? And that's that's interesting because there's no good or wrong. It's just what it is. There are principles and there's structure, and you have to find a way to bring that together. And that's what I believe. And I don't believe it's one or the other, but somewhere in between. Was een vraagteken?
Question mark.
Somewhere in between. So I gave that question mark. Somewhere in between is your vision as a coach. And my vision will be, I think, of the 4 question marks, the most right one. So I give them structures. I give them a kind of team organization, and within that team organization, I try to bring some principles. So that's my vision, but your vision or the vision of the club could be totally different, and that's not good or bad. The only way to know if it's working is the game. And if your team and all the individuals are developing better and better, I think you find the right way on that moment, on that club, with that group of players. And it could be different with a new team of players. So find the right way. That will be, I think, a good advice. So the last one, and that's also an interesting one, because as a team trainer, it's very difficult to give every individual the right attention. And I think, and I believe, is you have to bring that together. Find a way, do it whatever you think it works, but bring it together. And if you work with adults, team development will be the most important thing. But if you work at a youth academy, maybe the clubs say, no, also the team has to win the games. But for example, in Holland, mostly the individual part of development is leading. So that means in Holland, my U15 players of the national team all already play in U17 or U16 or U17 because they say, okay, if the U15 is not winning, it's not important. It's more important that player on that moment got the best challenges for his development. So we bring him closer to the first team. And so I believe in you have to bring that together. And the starting point of everything is to know yourself to the max. So if you know yourself, and you know how players react, and know how you react by yourself on different situations, the better individual attention and begeleiding,
guidance,
the best guidance you can give to that players in that situation, etc. So again, the starting situation, the club, team, individuals, there's an individual plan, an IDP, which means some skill, some fitness, some video, some mental, some life skill. But it's not, if you want to do video individual with every player every week, yeah, it's not possible. So how are you gonna do that? And that if you stimulate self-regulation, and which the players are self-responsible for their IDP, that means the players are working and you just overview the situation. That still means that you know what the plan is. So with the player who is very fast and is playing up front, and he makes that good run you talked about, you only can do and watch to him and his IDP conversation. He knows, hey, that's what we talked about. So in that team training, with a little zip or a knipoog, or whatever signal you give, or a little touch of a little speak, you can bring it together. And an important thing also is a safe learning environment to let the players be themselves. And there's a problem in Holland, I think, in the youth academies. It's mostly not safe because they are very afraid to punched out of the academy, and they don't want that. So they're a little bit afraid and don't dare to say everything against the coach, etc. So I think as a coach, you has to create that environment, that safe environment, and with honesty and clarity, I think you will reach a lot. And to give some customization, so everybody also with the skills and with the IDP, but also with every player. Every player reacts different in every situation. So you have to know yourself, but also your players, and you have to know them to the max to bring them in their best performance. And sometimes you need some team building for that. And I think team building is not to have a dinner together, but team building is everything you do to develop your team and to bring the best in every individual player above. So with a small talk, with some text messages, with a big scrimmage, with everything you do, I think and I believe is team building. And again, if you really be there for your players, if you create a good environment where the players will work very, very hard and give the best they got, I believe if you really love your players and be there for them, you get the best in them above. So this is one of the pictures I used when we on the Monday, I think it was 27th of January, before the first training with the U15s. Surround yourself with those on the same mission. And I told my my boys, I want to become a coach in the pro soccer, and I want to become U17 coach, Dutch National U17 coach, U19 coach, and I need you. But you need me also. So we need each other. So let's create an environment where we all want to be, where we all can perform the best. So you help me and I help you. And yeah, that's I think also the message to end with right now. Surround yourself with those on the same mission. So if you have a mission to get better as a coach, you get a mission on to reach something in life as yourself. Which people are around me to help me to reach that goal of to be happy to the max? And yeah, I think a lot of text. I hope my English was a little bit well, but that was my presentation for now.
Right. Thanks, Peter. One question we have is, right, when you talked about yourself that you're passionate and very demanding, sometimes too demanding, and right, it's a very fine line. How are you going over it, right? Or you're right? How you deal with that you're not going over that fine line that it becomes too much for the players.
Yeah, that's a difficult way, and you also see my good empathic abilities. I try to get the best in players above, and you have to see how they react on that. So the situation on the field, in the situation there is, if you coach them, if you help them, if you shout to them, if you show them some video, whatever, how they react depends if they if it's the right thing on that moment. So I think you have to aanpassen. Yeah, I think you have to change your the way you want to reach something if you see, okay, it's too much right now, and sometimes you have to on that moment, and that's difficult for me because I want to better more energy. I want to give them all, and sometimes it's too much. I know that. What good is for me, I think, and I learned that during the years, is if they're upfront, I tell them, okay, this is what you get. Critical, passionate, ambitious, structured, good empathic abilities, etc. But sometimes is this gonna happen? So if that's gonna happen, it's my meaning is very positive, and I try to create another way of working or whatever. So up front, they know I'm sometimes too demanding and sometimes obsessed and impatient. They know that up front, and also my staff knows that. So that makes I create directly an environment, surroundings, which my weaknesses are clear for everybody.
Right. Yeah. Right. And sometimes it's good that when you have like other staff members who can talk to you about it, like after practice too, right? Or give you a little cues about like, hey, you have to calm down, right? Because it's getting too much. Or you video yourself, and then you see yourself back after training too, right? That you learn, right? You have to learn is to see what impact you have with your words sometimes, and sometimes when you see things back, you can learn from that too, right? Or you have a mentor who are or let you realize that kind of things, right?
Yeah, that is, and in my I already told you I didn't know my staff, but my team manager is very experienced, and in my first conversation I told him, okay, this is what I am, and this is what can be happen, because I got 4 days, and we have to win that first game. So sometimes I'm obsessed and impatient, and players will feel no rest and no. If that's gonna happen, please tell me, because I'm in the middle of it. So on that moment, please take the overview and get me back. So I'm open, and I told my team manager, but also my staff and my players, that up front, so they know what they got, and they know what's gonna happen, and it's easy for me to say to the team, okay, guys, this is what happened. I was obsessed. I didn't saw what happened, and I'm gonna do that better the next time. And yeah, that's it. They know it's coming from very good meanings.
Right.
All right. Yeah, I have some questions. So the first one, I try to put them in order so the conversation flows. So the first one is, you said one of your three, values with the team was winning, and in the earlier presentation you talked about balancing development and winning, and coaching such a young age. Can you explain how or why you chose winning as one of those values? I think everybody in here works with players around that same age. Most people in here don't work with professionals. So how do you balance winning and the development as part of the program? I know that the Dutch have a strong vision on that, but how do you balance it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you for that. I hope I can, with my English, explain that really clear, because I think it's as a coach, I think I want to win. All the coaches who are listening and everybody want to win, but the explanation of winning will be different. Players will win that game, and don't take that away from them. Never. So we put winning in one of the core values. Let me see. In here. But next to that, the explaining of winning for me as a coach is not winning that game. So that would mean that if we hit 4 times the post and they shot 1 time and my goalie makes in a very, very good performance from my team and all the tasks and everything they did good, but the goalie make a fault and we lose 1-0, that I'm not satisfied. That would be crazy. So winning for me as a coach in a youth academy, in the youth football, but also I think, but there's a lot of pressure, but in the adult football will be a better performance every time again. So that will be team building again, team building every time again. And a core value from the KNVB, I'm sorry, KNVB is Dutch National Association, is winning because we have to perform as a country. So again, is winning, they're one of the core values. But I think if you saw the coach of Spain in the we have some time. We have Pieter?
Sure.
Let me see. If you see me as a coach on the left side, this is one of our biggest talents in Holland. Ajax bought him from VVV. Just first watch the goal. I think I'm not gonna talk right now. So that's one of the biggest talents. But if you see me as a coach left down, I'm sorry. My striker is going to the goal and I'm organized and helping my defenders. And I almost missed this goal. So that means if I would win and I was only focused on that moment, I wouldn't organize. So I try to take the overview instead of in my emotions and we want to win. And I think this moment you see the coach of Spain in another situation. Let me see. Oh, here we got. And I think he's very emotional during the whole game in this kind of situation, which means also your players feel that, your players see that. It's not safe because the coach is very critical. Comparing with my behavior, I think, and that's my philosophy, that's not the truth, but my philosophy is I try to help the players. I believe they give the best they got, and sometimes is that a little bit naive, but I believe in the best of the human being. So be positive all the time. And if I come back to the question with winning, yeah, that's a very interesting question, which I try to answer with what is the meaning of winning for yourself and for your club? Because if the club wants you to win all the games, yeah, that gives a lot of pressure. But if the club wants to get the individuals and your team better, and they watch to the performance instead of the results, that gives a safe environment. And if the club or a coordinator faces the coach with his behavior next to the pitch when they play on a training pitch, it will be no problem because there's no pressure. But in a game, there's a lot of pressure. and a coordinator can face them. Hey, why do you act like that? Why don't you try to help your players? And I think if you work in a youth academy, should that happen? A little bit too much, I think, but
no,
I hope I answered the question.
I think everyone in here, the coaches are very, very intrigued by it, and that's a question we all work with. So just going on to a question, about your role, what's the biggest challenge as a national team coach? You're limited time with them, so how do you bring in players from different clubs, different philosophies together, and do you have to struggle with different formations, or things like that, or different ways of play, or what's it like bringing that together in a short time?
To be honest, it's my first year, and with Corona, my games in May also cancelled. That means that I had five games, and I think that's very difficult because I get a half year for scouting, and I have a half year to work together with the clubs and bring the best players together in January. So one advance, I got a lot of time, and we got some selection days to see the players together. So we use 45 players to play scrimmages each other, etc. So I got some moments, but I also made some choices. So during those months, I knew which are my best players, and some were pretty difficult players mentally. So I knew that best players are pretty difficult. So the players 16 till 23, I don't want them to be difficult. So I made some not logical choices in qualities, and I just choose mentally better players. So I knew, okay, their role will be they're starting on the bench. They have to play the second game against Ireland, and that's one of the weakest teams. Now, the weakest team of those three we're gonna face. But if there's a difficult personality and he is not accepting his role in that team, it gives me negative energy, and I didn't want to do that. So the first 11 or 12 or 16, I just took the best one, and after that, I also made choices in good mentally players, just players who gives a lot of energy, are loyal, are can play in good structure, and not only impulsive players. And there's the next, because I also want the most talented players. So in the first 12 are easy. We all had chose those 12 players, but the difficult choices are from 13 to 23. And I also made choices. Okay, if I choose that one or that one, I think in the future, in 5 or 6 years, that's gonna be the most important player. Okay, the other one is a little bit better perform now, but I choose him because he's got more talent, and those are difficult choices for me. Yes.
No, that's great, and that kind of goes into the question about what you're looking for. I guess the next question is, with what you see in youth development and working with the club, and at the U15 age group, do you still believe it's good for players to have multiple positions? When do you see them start to get specific into one role? How do you when do you see that transition happen?
Yeah, I believe around that age. So if you see the U13s in Holland, that's the first time they play on a big pitch. That's the first time they really play from some position. So in U13 or U14, you cannot directly say, okay, that's that position. I think U15 or U16 will be, then you know, okay, that's going to be that position. One difficult thing is the players U15 national will play at their clubs at U16, U17. So they are physical, maybe a little bit further, but also mentally a little bit further. So that means those U15 players, you can say, okay, they play on the right position. So I think in U15, U16, you have to know that. And the Dutch national team, U15s, I can tell them you're going to act maybe a center D is going to be an outside defender, or a wing player is going to be maybe as a striker as a winger. But I think on that age.
Oh, that's a great answer. I think just to take it back, because I know somebody asked again, you talked a lot about the positive energy and the personal characteristics you look for in a player. You said about half your job is scouting. What soccer skills, technical and tactical, are of priority for the U15 age group for you? What are you looking for at that age? As opposed to, an older age, we know you're not looking for a finished product. So what's most important to you, or what's most important, for the country at that age?
I think that's my vision. You see a lot of games, you see a lot of players, and I want the best players. So what I try to do is in all the months of scouting and all the working cooperation with the clubs is to bring the best players together. So that means not the best players with the highest skills, but also the players on that moment who got the best performance in totally. So that means also in defending, also in mentally, also physically, also in intensity and energy and in positivity, in everything. So the whole package, which players are the best at that moment. And I already told you a little bit about the way of playing from the Dutch national teams, but it's also my vision on how I want to play. So that means I want to build up with three. That also means if you build up with three, there you always have a player in the center of the field. So that means if you lose the ball, there's always somebody in the center of the field. And those three players, the two outside building up players don't play wide, but they try to wide of the box. They build up right on that moment. So I scout the best players, and then I think, okay, which players, how can I bring them in their strength? So I got one of my best players, and my captain is a player who is very smart. Don't be afraid to have the ball. He good side of the game and what the opponent's gonna do. So I let him be that midfielder who comes as third man down in the three-man build-up. So I knew one outside wing is very fast, is very good skills, but he cannot play between the lines. So I let him drop back to the line. He was the one player who played to the side, and that means my right defender, which is one of the most talented players of the team, I let him play higher between the lines. So that makes, again, left a different way of playing and comparing with the right side, and that brings you my opponent again in choices. So what I try to do is I got a structure, I take the best players, and then how can I bring that together so every player can be in his strengths in that game. And sometimes you have to make choices in your scouting because you know, okay, if I let them play together, that right D can only play on the side and that right forward can also only play on the side, then you have to make choices. Yeah, I think so. In scouting, I want the best players in totally the whole package, and the skills on the ball are not the most important thing. That is the whole package: the physical, the mentally, the performance, the positivity, the working together with the other players, etc., etc.
I think it's awesome insight. Just to touch on your team building. First of all, I know you say your English is not good, but and I'm going to be tweeting this later and quoting you. Team building is not a team dinner. Team building is everything you do to develop your team and bring the best out of every player. I thought that for me, that quote really resonated from you. So how do you, what do you do? You said it's in everything you do to help nurture leadership and to assure that your players mesh together or come together in that short time. Share a little bit of your secrets.
Yeah, it's about my empathic abilities, I think. But that's een tekenaar, Peter. Wat is een tekenaar? Pointer? Nee, een
a drawer, like
drawer?
somebody who draws pictures.
Yeah, a drawer. I give a drawer to. I ask him to make this picture. Yes, but in this picture is everything. I think we also go to the mind level of the players. You see the bus. That's from a very interesting game on this moment with the players. All the players. How do you? Now I don't get the game. Weet je die game, Peter?
No.
Maakt niet uit. Kom ik zo wel. But they create their environment. They make their own appointments. So that makes with team winning and proud. There are for a 12 values which they mentioned by themselves. So that means in winning they lef. What is the word lef? Brutaal.
Yeah, there.
There.
Yeah,
they want in the games to dare to show themselves, and that's what they say. So I can use that in my pre-talk. But they also said, okay, we want to every appointment we make, we want to follow them in the games, but also out of the games. They say that by themselves. So in Spain, and I think in day 3. We got a problem, and I wasn't angry. I just brought them together and said, guys, what happened? You told me we had appointments and we're gonna follow them, and this is what's gonna happen. So they knew we blazen onszelf in plaats van de coach. We fool ourselves instead of we fool the coach. And you saw them growing together because they also said, okay, if somebody makes a fault, correct him. So if in a few days already, somebody wants to make a fault, and another one said, "Oh, okay, don't do that because we mentioned that together." So the positivity I create, the empathic abilities to see how's his face, what's happening with him, what's going on, etc. That and this picture all together makes a very safe environment from the start. And I think, yeah, that's a little bit information about for your question.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. Right. And when Peter was talking about appointments, a better translation is rules, right? Just when you set rules for your or the players set the rules, that's where like what he means with appointments, because that's like the player make the rules, right? Yeah, that was the last question. Right. Is there anything you want to, before we end this webinar, is there any last thing you want to like say to the coaches on the webinar yourself, Peter?
No. The reason I want I wanted to do this, and I do webinars and to challenge myself for my English and to prepare myself, etc., is to be a better one. And if I go back to the inspiration of Michael Jordan, it's he failed over and over again, and that's what with me happened. I didn't told that, but I was at the first team of pro soccer team as a coach, as an assistant coach, and there was a big fight with the head coach and me. I didn't mention that up front, but I took that moment to be a better coach, and so everything in life, try to take that as to be a better person, a better coach, a better human being, and I've got some goals, and I'm gonna reach them. I don't know when, and I don't know how, but it's gonna happen. And I just reach for my goals and develop myself day in, day out, and that's my advice. Dare to make faults, dare to jump into a deep pool without a diploma. Just go for it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Peter, for your passionate explanation of like how you see things, how you do things, right? And like what you said is like, hey, as a coach, like from this webinars, and this is a great period to you have some time to invest in yourself, right? Just that's very good. I want to thank everybody, all the coaches who are still on there.
Wait, one. If there's some feedback or questions who coming up after, just put them at Peter, and I asked Peter also to give me some feedback. So everything is welcome, and we have to do it with each other to create a better soccer world. So do it together.
Right. No, we appreciate it very much. Right. And what Peter said, any feedback for him, send me an email at peter@tecumsehsoccerclub.com, and then I will forward the feedback to Peter. If you have more questions for him, right, just shoot it to me, and then I will make sure they're getting to him over there, right? Yep. Thank you very much. I think the next webinar is with another Dutch coach who wrote a book, Let Him Play. It's like tactical periodization for youth players, and you can use it with adults too. and it will be on our Facebook page. It's already on there. Like in the next couple of days, there will be, you have to pre-register for like safety reasons, right? Just he will go into his philosophy and how he sees it, right? Because he has a little different approach, and that's where we can learn from. Is like we're seeing the game from different parts, and then you as a coach can pick up the things you like and implement it in your session. Dus again, Peter, thank you very much, and we will talk later about it, how it goes, and we go from there. Just everybody, what Ryan said, stay safe, be healthy, and take care. Okay, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good bye.